Hi, I'm Jeana Locke, and I am an intuitive life coach. I'm certified in emotion code, several other energy practitioner programs, Akashic Records, and I am completing my human design certification. I help heart-based people evolve professionally and personally by supporting them with their up to overcome these upper limits. And I invite you to embrace a life of joy and freedom so that you can wrap up all of the things that you have in your life to have a better life. I understand what it's like to stand in your own way. I did it for a lot of years. And I also know the confidence that you get after you release these things and you can go after your dreams to the kind of life you want to live, to become clear on what you really value. So with extensive training in Eastern medicine and Western medicine, a PhD, I'm fully committed in connecting with my life's mission, with my soul's purpose, and to empower the soul to bridge the gap between where you are and where you want to be. I'm here to help you take a bigger leap. The purpose of the soul container, this program, is to hold a sacred container for you, a space for you to be released, to release, to activate, and to move forward. So we were going to take that next big step together. This particular session is all about releasing trapped emotions, imbalances, blocks, and in all aspects that need to be healed and brought into your awareness. Then they're keeping you in repeating patterns. You're stuck in repeating patterns. Then to activate the environment and your habits that fuel your energy to your really highest potential. So you're going to find these very helpful if you answer yes to some of this. Do you find yourself never getting your timing right? There might be this, it may be on health, it might be on relationships, it might be on career, it might be on profession, it might be on finances, but something's out of sync all the time. You get it going and it still goes out of sync. You find yourself insecure in the concept of certain topics. You're just insecure about them. Every time you start to touch them, you get really insecure. The same topics, relationship, career, profession, health, anything that you have that comes up. You can it is a whole thing about where you feel like you can't ever get there fast enough, and that it is really a frustration for you because you've got to get there. You're insecure, and I got to get there fast enough, and I didn't do it right. Another question, if you answer yes, is if you're pessimistic about everything in life, or there's certain topics you're pessimistic about, like I'll never, it won't, I hate, those kinds of things. Those are often things that you need to overcome, and you've got a repeating pattern that you need to overcome. If the other part of that on the other side is being super pushy, and the pushy part is you are pushing to fix a flaw, and you're push, 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 and you push, 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 and you push, 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 push. Many of us, I've observed several people lately who have supervisors who are like this. They push, 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 push. They're just out of sync. They aren't understanding at all that you can't push your way through everything in life. And that when you over tighten the screw, it's going to break. You're not going to be able to use it, and it's not going to work anymore. So what I want you to be able to stop and do is to stop and recognize that that's not the best way to go. Another thing, if you say yes to, do you recognize that the environment and experiences that enhance your natural abilities? Do you actually recognize them, or can you? I have found that to be really hard in certain areas of my life, to recognize where it actually works, where the patterns are working and which patterns are not. I can identify the patterns that don't work later, but I have a real tough time identifying them when I'm going through them. So if you can see what is not working and be able to, we want to be able to reevaluate and look at our soul and our soul's uniqueness and understand that we're going to do it different than everyone else. Everybody's going to have a different way. So our objectives tonight are to be consistent and create through your effective habits and choices that help you align to living closer to your authentic self. So that's our objective, is to help you become consistent and create through effective habits and choices that align to your closer living to your authentic self. We want to help the creator be able to help you focus clearly on what to sense, see, feel, hear, or know whenever a non-beneficial pattern is there, as well as the effective patterns. So they want you to be able to sense those non-effective ones and see the red flag, to literally see a red light, stop. And if it's a green light for go, to know when you're supposed to go. to literally give yourself some kind of symbolic things from the Creator that this is a red light and this is a green light. And the other thing, we want you to use this knowledge as a stepping stone to lead towards the right place with the right people at the right time for your highest and your best. And is to have you have and become and feel invincible with your actions and experiences and have the protection of Source as you move forward. So the goal of this is to release what we need to release to get to this point and activate what we can activate to help you go there. So we have two parts: release trapped emotions, imbalances, what needs to be healed and brought into your awareness that's keeping you stuck in repeating patterns that do not serve the highest expression of yourself. And then we're going to activate the consistent actions, behaviors, physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual, which support the highest alignment with your soul. And you're going to use it to move out of survival into thriving, and then to evolve through a transformational experience for yourself, as well as all those that you are emotionally and energetically touch in your lives. So as always, this whole session is for all of those who are in this group, or who will watch this group later, or who will want to just experience the energetic releases because they're here. All of their names are listed, and the name others for anybody who may purchase this group or decide to watch it in the future. So also, please don't do this when you're driving. This particular one may especially be hard. If you're using any operating equipment or anything, please do not do that. Listen to it at a later time. So we're going to get going on it. So our first release is to release blocks, trapped emotions, and balances that need to be healed and brought into your awareness that are stopping you from moving forward. So we are going to release using body code tonight, emotion code. There weren't any limiting beliefs, but there are some that are similar. We're going to use human design in it some. The Great Vibes Transformation, which is my personal modality that I use, is also in here, and it's a vibrational, using vibrational energy. So our first one that we came up with that came out of body code was body clock. The body clock is out of alignment. It's imbalanced. It's not happy. And your body clock is what is out of sync with your divine timing. So the divine timing is like your body clock and divine timing's body clock are completely messed up. They're not in alignment. And as we started it, it ranges between 34 and 63%. So the lowest person in the group is at 34 and the highest is at 63. And what this is this clock, this rhythm in your body tells you when to do something. It says, oh, this is how you do it. And there's a natural flow of how we do things in our lives. We all have natural things that we do with our bodies do. So just think of it in terms of when you're doing this, is that this is the natural flow in sync with our Creator and with our higher self, to not have a good knowing of when to move forward and when to do something. So something is you try stuff, but it's the wrong time, it's the wrong place, it's the wrong way, it's the wrong people, it was the wrong process, something was wrong. So we need to balance the body clock so that you can activate what works for you. So the first one holding this in place, and can we release these? And it's yes, is grief. And grief was an intense emotional suffering caused by some kind of loss. So for some of you, it was in this lifetime, and some of you, it was in past lifetimes. And as we go through this tonight, you're going to hear different ones that come up, but grief will be, there's been a time in your life when something hit so badly, or it didn't work so badly, or the timing was so messed up that your grief overwhelmed you and everything stopped. We're going to ask if we can release this now. Yes. Yes, thank you. The next one is effort unreceived. Effort unreceived is when you work hard. You put in the effort, you put in the attempts, but nobody recognizes it. Or if they do recognize it, they negate it. They negate it, or they said it wasn't good enough. They make you feel bad about whatever it was you did. You feel crushed, you feel burned out, and you feel terrible. It's a total unappreciation. There is a whole concept. There's so much tonight around the whole concept of effort unreceived. And that's when you've put in all that effort and you've really, really tried and nothing works. So they're asking if we may release this. Yes, thank you. Thank you. The next one's heartache. Heartache when you have real difficulty with something and you were crushed. And there's going to be a physical pain in your chest when you really tried. So people who have repeating patterns, it could be that they live with somebody who constantly makes it miserable to live with them. They feel controlled by them, and there's heartache. They don't know what to do. They don't know how to get out. You can feel when you do energy work with them or when you're connected with them, you can feel the pain in their heart, and you know that that's there. So heartache is when there's difficulty in something and you have this crushing and physical pain in your chest because you just can't do this anymore. And so you repeat the patterns, just keep repeating over and over and over again. And it's not working for you, but you don't know how to get out of it because the energy from the others is just too much. May we release this. Thank you. Thank you. The next one is insecurity. Insecurity is a lack of feeling confident. It is feeling unsafe. It's feeling like you can't do it. And insecurity could be insecurity can be in a relationship thing. It can be in a job situation. It can be in a business situation. Insecurity is like running rampant and it touches everything we do for this whole night. There's insecurity in it. It's because there is a lack of confidence and you feel unsafe and you don't know what to do. And you're just going, and you're trying, or you freeze and you can't do anything. So I'd like you to stop and say is insecurity is that we're going to release this. May we? Yes. 100% clear. Yes, thank you. The next one is rejection. Rejection is when you feel denied, rebuffed, unimportant, not valued, and unwanted. Somebody may actually tell you they want you there, but they treat you as though they don't. They speak to you and act in ways to you that makes you feel that there is complete rejection towards you. So when I think of rejection and I think of it, I think of many years ago when we had a vet clinic was that we would get animals into the clinic that pets would have to come in that had been caged their entire life and had never been out. And people would say, oh, I take care of them and I feed them and whatever. And yet this little pet had never been out of the cage and had no idea how to even get out of the cage. And rejection is when you always feel denied. That little pet always felt denied. No matter what we tried to do, it was a big thing. They didn't feel they were valued or they were wanted. And so as that happens, it could be in work and it can hit your health and your body. And every time you try this new process, this exercise and this new food intake process that you're using, you have this rejection thing of when it doesn't work or somebody makes fun of it or it wasn't even valued enough that you were given permission to give it an effort, or they sort of tried to sabotage it. So we'd like to see if we can release rejection off of repeating patterns. It's a big one because people don't even want to get rejected again. So they want to not even try again. So every time I do the keto diet and every time I won't say I fall off a lot, but I eat more carbs than I normally do. I don't eat very many carbs, but if I were to eat like 20 carbs in a day, I feel like I just have let myself down and I complete rejection of my body. And then the next day I'm like, well, I feel like yesterday, why shouldn't I just go? So I literally give self-rejection when I do that. And I have to stop and go, oh, today's a new day. It was okay to have a day of whatever you want to call that. And then today I'm going to do this other way. So it can hit your diet. It can hit your job when you have felt rejected. It can be if you were in an exercise program and others didn't show up to do what they said they would do, or it was very difficult. Anything about the word rejection that comes up in a relationship. How many of us have been rejected in relationships? And we may even be sitting in the same room with the person and feel rejected. We completely feel rejected and they don't value who we are. We're rebuffed as a person. And as a person who does energy work, I have experienced this with family, is there's you can be in the same room, but they're not even going to acknowledge that you're there and they're not going to speak. So there's a rejection feeling, and I need to release that because of that concept. So may we release rejection. Yes. Yes. The next one is helplessness. I don't think that requires anything. So this whole body clock thing is on, your body clock's not working because you've had these emotions under it that are holding it in place. And helplessness was one that was keeping your body clock from working right. And helplessness is you just feel like you have no control. No control, nothing. Nothing you can do, no control. I have no control. Everybody controls everything about it. So it can be in your job. And right now, there are a lot of people out there who are feeling helpless in their jobs. They may have a job right now, and they feel helpless because they think it can be taken away at any moment. And then there's people who don't have a job and they're looking for a job and they feel helpless because no one looks at their job application. Or they feel helpless because they get an interview, but nobody even thinks about hiring them. They have all of these things and they feel helpless. They feel like they're controlled by the utility companies and their house payments, and they're controlled by what somebody else needs or somebody else wants. The whole deal of helplessness is huge in this on our body clocks. When we feel helpless, we feel like someone else controls our destiny. Someone else controls everything around us. Someone else controls every part of our lives, and we don't have any. Money's going to go away. A place to sleep's going to go away. Love's going to go away. Everything is going to go away. Helplessness is, that's how you feel. And even if you are not in helplessness, there are some of you who are absorbing helplessness. Your spouse is helpless and you absorb it. Some of you who are caregivers to others, they feel completely helpless. They don't know what to do. And the only thing that can be going on right now is that you're absorbing theirs, or they want you to feel that as helpless as they feel. So that whole concept of helplessness can be your own, and it can be absorbed. It's also inherited, and it comes from past lives. And it's one of these that has like layer after layer after layer after layer of it. It can be from when someone was in the hospital for months and they were helpless. And now every time you're gone to go to do something new in a job or do something, they're fearful you're going to go away. So they feel helpless. And you all of a sudden, they give that energy out and you can't control it. And then you absorb it. So much around career and profession right now. People with jobs, people who own businesses. And you know what's really crazy is every single person in this group is going to think that one was written just for them of something I just said. They're going to honestly believe that was just for them. And it's for every person in this group. And it's going to come from past lives and it's going to come from inherited. You can even, if you know muscle test, you can ask which side of the family. It's going to come from so many angles. And I just realized like the absorption part is going to be for the majority of us as well. We've absorbed helplessness in society's energy that's being posted upon everybody right now. Everybody feels helpless by society's whole concept of there's nothing we can do. There's this helplessness feeling that's coming, and you're fighting it with everything. So the absorption of society stuff is really big on this one. And you can tell this one's hit me a lot. You may want to listen to this again if you need to. The next one is self-abuse. And self-abuse is when we see this repeating pattern that happens. And every single time we come up on a trigger that triggers something we've had in our past that didn't work. We had this happen in our past. It didn't work. We get triggered by it. Instead of trying to like address it and move on, we have an illness happen. We have a headache happen. We have our right eye stop working and we can't see out of it. We have to go clean the house. We have to go cook all the meals. We have to do all the laundry. We have something on self-abuse that we do it's a form of self-sabotage, but instead of addressing whatever this is that we were supposed to go do or we needed to do, or God said, oh, this is a good thing to go do, we self-sabotage because we're so afraid. So that whole self-abuse, it's actually just a self-sabotaging, and it happens so often. So many of us see it. You can see it in others easier than you can see it in yourself. You can see it completely in others. You can see how they self-sabotage all the time. They get into a new relationship and they give themselves way too much into the relationship, but they can't see it. They give up everything. They love to have an apartment and a condo and not have to have a yard, and all of a sudden they're buying a house with a great big yard and all of this yard work. Or they love little cars that run around and play easy, and all of a sudden they buy this great big old whatever. They do something that they self-sabotage in relationships. They do it in their business. They do it with their health. Think about how much sabotage there is with health. How many of us have tried to lose weight, or how many of us have tried to go on an exercise program and tried to eat healthier for our skin, or for something in our body that needs to clear up and do well, and we self-sabotage it because before we know it, we're in there getting us, and this is me before the last 3 or 4 years, oh my gosh, me and my Dr. Peppers. I mean, I had a Dr. Pepper twice a day. And then how would I ever expect to keep my weight down? It was one of those things that I did self-sabotaging. It was my little thing, but it won't hurt anything. So self-sabotaging, it's a form of, even when we know it's not good for us, we are self-sabotaging because we don't know how to control it. You have a lot of self-abuse that sabotage that comes from others. For somebody who doesn't want you to lose weight, for somebody who doesn't want you to have that great relationship. For how many people have you ever seen, for those of you who are single, you'll be able to relate to this well. How many of you have seen people who were, all your married friends think they need to fix you up so you can get married? And all of them think, oh, you won't be happy until you do it. There is a whole thing of they need you to be just like them. So if you have friends who are over heavier or having issues with health, you're going to end up doing it because your friends want you to be just like you with them, and they're going to do things that are going to sabotage you if you're not careful, unless you're able to dress up. You can see them sabotaging themselves. You can see them doing stuff. You can see them freaking out. I can tell you right now, any of you who've worked with me on a one-on-one, you can see when over the years, when my eye has gone crazy, every single time I get really close to a new alignment in my vibration, and to increase in my vibration, I have huge eye issues, and 5 eye surgeries last year, and all the stuff that's happened. And as soon as it all starts going again, the first thing you're going to see is this right eye is going to literally be a huge challenge to see out of. I mean, I have a magnifying glass that sits here next to my desk so I can read the pages that I have. I can read if I make the font big, but I can't see out of that eye very well except from a distance. And so it's really interesting how the self-sabotage is there. So I need to self-abuse I need to release it, and all of us do. Some of you on health, some of you on relationships. Some of you have people are sabotaging you in relationships. They don't want you to have a relationship. They don't want you to have a home. There are people who don't want you to be independent. There are people who don't want you to be financially secure. There are people who have to be better than you, and there are sabotagers. So the abuse comes from that, and it also comes from yourself. So we're releasing both. Yes. Thank you. Okay. The next one is hatred. Hatred of something. There's something that happened in your life and you hated it. You hated it. You hated it with everything in you. Whatever it was, you hated it. You felt like it was unjust circumstances. It wasn't right. And everything about it, you hated it. Everything that there was. So every single time you turned around and got ready to do the same thing again, all of a sudden, this whole little thing flares up inside of you, and you just get angry all at once. And you don't even know why you're angry, but you feel the anger inside of you, and you feel frustration, and you feel anxiety and you feel stress and you get all of this stuff going, and it's all about an anger that's something that's happened. So we need to release whatever that may be. For me, it was the macular hole. And all of a sudden, I couldn't see out of this eye. And it changed everything in my life. It changed everything. And the anger out of this happening to me was so significant, and it still is. It's still so frustrating to me. I get so frustrated. This is my prayer tonight. If this releases on me, if it is your body weight, if it is, I try, but every single time you find that you're getting angrier, then your hormones go crazy and then you can't. So we've got to release the anger around whatever it is that's holding you stuck in that place, whatever it may be. If it's body size, if it's body weight, if it's something about the skin, something about physically, internally, if it's cramps, or if it's hormonal issues, or if it's eyesight, if it's joints, whatever it may be, it's something physical that happens when you get this angry, and you'll have it pop up every time. So I can see when I get that angry, my eye gets 10 times worse. And I can tell that. I didn't really realize it till today. And I've been working on this one for about 3 to 4 days. And it didn't hit me till today that every time I get really, really frustrated about something, it's like my eye goes crazy. And I found myself almost the whole day literally holding my hand on my eye so I could read, because I couldn't read with both eyes. So it was like it flared up. So it is controlling and keeping me stuck in a repeating pattern that, no, you can't see. Why on earth would you think you could do this? Why on earth do you think you should be able to do this? So I'm stuck in this repeating pattern that I have to do that. May I release this? Yes. I'm getting some from past lives on all of us too, and inherited. Yes. So now, is there anything else on body clock? No. On body clock, how happy is your internal body clock now, and how in sync is it with God? So we were at 34 as our maximum, and that's the low end, and our upper range was 63. So now we are above 34. Yes. Are we at 50? Yes. 60? No. Somebody is still 55, 56. Somebody is 55, and there may be more than that. And the highest is somebody is at 100% cleared. So they're 100% happy their body clock is. So they're able to get that off. Yes. The next one was really interesting, and it was a huge surprise to me. Huge, interesting discussion. It was on toxic, and it came up as toxic sound. And it is a frequency that's stuck in your body that is a lingering ringing in our ears, our brain, our body, and it can be from any time or point in your life. So most of these toxic sounds, they're energetic forms. They are vibrational frequencies that we are simply unable to process because the body was imbalanced and is imbalanced when it occurred. So for me, I'm going to give you a really good example of my sound toxic. My toxic sound was my first husband. When things started happening that became physically scary for me, and I made some efforts to do something about it. He would call me names, and he would tell me how lazy I was, and he would tell me how terrible I was at business, and he explained to me how I could never make it on my own, and he yelled and screamed at me about all of these things I could never do. And I totally loved this guy. I love this man. He was my husband, been my husband a lot of years. And I was completely hearing those to this moment. As I said them out loud, I still hear them. I still hear his voice. I still hear what he said about how I was lazy, and if something happened, I would be sick, and I never missed work, and all of the stuff that occurred. Now, we had a veterinary practice that we did $500,000 a year while we were married. And when I left, and that was how much the money came in, and we made profit to take home around $200,000. And when I left and moved, he went to $125,000 coming in that year total. This wasn't a profit. But I was a terrible business person, and I was a lazy person, and I was so awful. And those ringings still happen. And it literally was tonight, as I sit on this, as I'm like, oh my gosh, I could almost hear him when I came up on the body code. I could hear him. Have you heard somebody tell you terrible things about yourself that are not true? They're not true. They're not true. So when we tell our children something that's terrible about them, that rings as a toxic sound in their life, and it may ring forever if somebody's not able to release it. So as we look at that, here's some of the things that made that occurred, and that may help release these. So we're going to release helplessness, that you have no personal power, and there's victim mentality. So because you feel helpless when they tell you this. If they tell you that you are, or you must, or you're terrible, or you're awful, or you're a bad cook, or you can't do this, or you're a bad lover, then it's going to impact every relationship you have from that point forward. If you believe it to be true, if that person stating that statement is of an influence in your life that is of great influence, and you believe in them, or you have a commitment to them of some sort, it is really hard to get that toxic sound out of your vibrational energy. So we're going to try to release it today. Helplessness, releasing it. We're going to return your personal power, and we're going to release the victim modality and mentality. Mental mentality. I can't say it now. Yes. The next one is worthlessness. It makes you feel worthless. It makes you feel as though you can't do anything, or you can't do enough. And there's of no value. You have no value, and you have no anything. You don't serve any purpose. You're not good enough, and you're not of any value, of any reason to be there. This can happen in a job. It can happen in a marriage. It can be happening with children. It can be happening with your parents. It can be happening with a friendship that you thought was a friendship. It can be happening in owning your business. It's that you've done all this stuff and nothing works. It's that worthlessness, that there's no value. So we need to release that and get rid of that sound. So as we're getting rid of sound toxicity of somebody telling you you're not good enough. If you had a client that didn't renew, they didn't even say it out loud, but they just didn't renew, and you just didn't know why, it may hurt. And there's almost a toxic sound energy coming through to you. Worthlessness. Is it released? No. Do it again. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes. The next one's vulnerability. It's feeling susceptible to harm. It feels like if they say those things, and if those things are true, something bad's going to happen to me. I'm not going to have a home to sleep in. I'm not going to have money. I'm not going to be loved. I'm not going to have my spouse or my children. Everything I think of and value is going to go away from me. So you feel vulnerable and susceptible to some kind of harm, physical harm, emotional harm. And many of us, it was both. We felt like everything would be going away. So this whole deal on toxic sound is when someone's told you something really bad and you've believed it. Whether it was a teacher, or it was a healer, or it was your spouse, or your sister, or your brother, or your father, or your mother, or grandparent, whoever it could have been that told you something, and they said something really tacky, and yet it really wasn't true. And even there was a hint of trueness about it at that moment, it wasn't true forever, and it needed to be released. The vulnerability part. 10. And for most of us, when those things happen, they weren't true at all. But that person is lashing out and trying to have you hurt as much as them. That doesn't make it right. That doesn't negating it. And they're not negating this tonight. There's no negation to say that was okay. You can do your forgiveness thing later, and we can do a whole process on forgiveness. And if you would like that, please send me just a note saying, please do a whole video on how to forgive. But tonight, this one is about understanding that toxic sound you heard, that it's still ringing in your body. They forgot about it. They don't even remember they did it. But when you were screamed at and told something terrible that you didn't do, then it's time. That's what this is. Now, is toxic sound released? Yes, it's released as much as we can release it. You may have other things in there that are there. So that hopelessness may be there. with that vulnerability, the overwhelm, if you get ready to try to address it, may be there. So just ask to release those. Yeah. The next one's saboteur. There's two kinds. It's a strong negative energy that comes from another person, but it doesn't always. So the first one we're going to deal with is saboteurs that are other people. These are other people who are energetically trying to hinder you or harm you. It's trying to stop you from moving forward, trying to stop your business, trying to stop your relationships, trying to stop something in your life. They have a sabotage attitude about it. So there's something that they want to do to wound you, to sabotage you, to stop you. And you need to be realistic that these people really do exist. There are people out there who want to sabotage all of us. We can sit and recognize that's true, but when we have accepted that energy in our system, that's when it begins to bother us. So this time on the saboteurs, there's jealousy is what's underlying. And I think all of us can do it. It's of you, it's of your situation. It can be of how you look. It could be how you dress. It could be how you have children. It could be that you have a spouse that they think is just perfect. It could be you have that there's money in your life. It could be the car you have. It could be the business and the work that you have in your business that's actually flowing. It could be the fact that clients are paying and coming to you and they don't have any. It could be that it is things that they're jealous of and they want that to not happen. Now, don't get this wrong. Many, many times it's a person who has a whole lot of clients who doesn't want you to have any clients. So that's a sabotage just as much as the other. And that you're going to find that to be true for those of you in business. You go to an employment place and you're working. And while you're working, the people around you, you do a really good job on something. And there are going to be people who are going to sabotage you because you're making them look bad just because you're doing your job well, but they're not. And all of a sudden, before you know it, you got knives coming at your back, or you feel like you can't breathe because of stuff and the gossip and the rumors. So jealousy is a huge one for people who try to sabotage you, and it comes from all different directions. So if you feel someone is trying to sabotage you, stop and ask in your energy field to release it. And you really ought to reach out and ask them other questions on it. I'll help you do a little more on it. Thank you. 2, 3. You may need a session on that topic. The next one is self-sabotage. That's when on the saboteur is that you self-sabotage yourself because you get sick. So that was tied back to some of these other ones that were up there earlier. This one is tied back in and it says, oh, you have to do all these things every single time you get ready to do something because you're afraid of it. So you sabotage yourself and you do this. So the person who goes down when we did our one last week was on focus. So all of a sudden you go down this rabbit hole and you self-sabotage because you just keep going down the rabbit hole. So they would like to be able to do that. You're self-sabotaging so you don't have to address the real issue. You don't have to go in and face the music. You don't have to stop and say, what do I need to do? Do I need to have more understanding? Do I need to step back and quit taking classes? Do I need to take another class? Do I need to hire somebody to help me? Do I need to do this in my business? Do I need to stop and take a step back? Whatever it is you may need to do on self-sabotage is that is something that can happen. We need to clear it. 2, 3. Self-sabotage in businesses and in work environments where you're working for a nonprofit or for a company of some sort, an organization, is often going to be when you do a really good job and you are doing your stuff and you are afraid you're going to lose your job. So you work and you work and you work. And then it's never going to be enough because the boss isn't going to do it. So self-sabotage can actually turn in to some of these others hitting on the jealousy of other employees, and it ends up becoming a double-edged sword. Thank you. The next one on this one under sabotage is conflict. And this is usually external. It's almost always an external situation, but somebody is battling for you not to be successful. So there's a saboteur who doesn't want you to be successful. It's in weight loss. So when I had tried to do a reduced diet in the past in my life, I can promise you the first thing my husband will walk in and do would be to come in and ask me if I wanted something to drink that had a whole lot of calories in it. And if I didn't, then they'd be like, well, why won't you sit down and have a drink with me? Whether it was a Dr. Pepper or a small glass of wine, whatever it may be, that it was really interesting because it was a lot of that when I would try to lose weight or when I would try to do something really healthy, like I was eating healthy foods and exercising, it would be like, oh, we really don't want to, you really don't want to go do that today. Can't we go do this instead? And it was interesting how much self-sabotage I got from others on not being as healthy. And I still get that from some family members because my body size is smaller than theirs. And so it's always like, oh, it used to be, you're too big, and I wasn't much different than I am now. But they would say, oh, you really need to lose weight. Oh, I just can't believe how puffy you are, or whatever. And I might have been 10 pounds, maybe 15 pounds heavier at the most. And now it is, you're just too thin. You've got to eat more. What's wrong with you? What is the deal? And the whole thing is, in comparison to them, I look very different. And so when they do that, they literally do something on conflict to make that really hard for me. There's a conflict about there that they're battling against me to not have me be successful on that. There will always be like super amount of things for me not to go exercise, or like, they'll make fun of me that I cycled a lot and I was doing biking, and it would be, well, yeah, Jeana's got to go ride her bike. And they would infer that there was something wrong with it. So if you have somebody in your life who's sabotaging health, that often is because they are either not able to do it themselves, and they haven't got that. This is their way of controlling you. So we're releasing conflict. The next one's overwhelm, which is being overpowered emotionally and overpowered with superior force. And they actually control you, either ethically control you, or it is a feeling of lack of control. This is oftentimes the saboteurs can come from bosses, supervisors. They may come from spouses who think they own you. They may come from families who think you should do these things. There's an overwhelm that they think they are superior to you and that you're less than. And you believe it. These all connect back in, and there's just a continuous loop on this whole repeating patterns. They all connect to each other. So we're going to release overwhelm. 2, 3. Yes. The next one is discuss. And this one is usually about a topic or something that you're supposed to do. Like for me, every time I start doing certain types of parts of my business, it is very disgusting because I don't enjoy it. And I will end up having the eye hurt. And then there will be different things occur. So I will end up having the disgust turns into, I self-sabotage myself by end up going back in and having something else happen. So I get that illness, that self-abuse illness that comes back in because I get really frustrated with this one thing. And that's where that can happen. The same thing can happen if on disgust, it may be that you're frustrated with how a spouse acts, or frustration with the child, and then your parenting techniques don't work as well. You're frustrated with that the food you tried for this diet, or this food intake process that you're using is just not working for you, or it costs too much. The disgust of it can come up. So we're going to release disgust. 3. I may send out a list of saboteurs to go with you, so you can actually ask if any of these are you. And there is actually, you may end up doing a class on saboteurs just to help you do some self-saboteur stuff to help release it, to help catch yourself when you're doing it, and do some things that we would do to rewire your neurotransmitters when you catch yourself doing it, to do something different so you don't do it again. So that'll probably be part of the annual program for those who want to do it, or it'll be a class, a workshop like the values class. And that's going to be on saboteurs. February or March. Okay. So you want some information before then ask. The next one is shock. Shock is when shock is triggered. Whatever shocked you to begin with that put you into these repeating patterns that you sort of repeat. When I've been shocked or I've had something happen, I go into dead silence mode and get very, very quiet. My friends will know I don't answer the phone. I don't talk on the phone. I try really hard not to do it. I shut down. Some other people do the exact opposite, and they do everything in the world to prove themselves. And somebody else may get sick. So when shock is triggered, you go into your mode of a repeating pattern. So my mode of a repeating pattern was to go into dead silence. I did that with my first husband. I thought if I don't speak, if I don't say anything, I don't move, he won't hit me. That's what I believed. And I find myself in that repeating pattern when anything happens that scares me, that it's like I have no control over it. I go back into that shock mode and I literally freeze and I don't talk and I don't speak. And it has nothing to do with the person that may be speaking to me at that point, other than I may not be able to handle that situation. So that's my mentality. The other person may get really loud and pushy and forceful, or they may get where they have to like work to prove it wrong. When I'm in a work environment, I do the work. When I am in a relationship, I go dead silent. You may do it different for different things. You may find with your family or with a parent that's difficult, you may go dead silent and try to just become invisible. And you think, oh, can I just have a force shield that I look exactly like the wall behind me? And then on the other side, you go to work and somebody sort of shock or triggers you. You do the exact opposite. You show up and you work. So we're going to release shock that's triggered so that you can actually see shock for what it is and actually take a stance of being able to see what God wants you to do or the Creator wants you to do to react responsibly in this situation. The next one is programming, which is a despair anchor. So something happened, something that was terrible, probably that shock. Something was really bad, and you built a story around it that was terrible. You built a bad story. You heard me say I had a husband, abusive, things happen, whatever that may have been. And on that, when the words came out about being lazy or not being good at business or any of that, I built a story around that whole thing. So I'm not good at business because why would that have happened to me if I had been good at business? And I built a whole story around the words he said and the actions he did because I had a programming of a despair anchor. The more powerful that person is and the more influential that person is in your life, the more that they actually have control of you, the more it becomes a repeating pattern. So there's been someone who's had a lot of control over you in your life, and they've had stuff that's just driven you crazy and it's really hindered you, and it's there. So when someone says to me to this day, "You're really great," what I hear is this: "So you think you're great, don't you? Sure, you're great. You're great at business. You're great at doing that." I can't even stop it. I mean, I literally go back to that place of hearing that, standing in that veterinary office and hearing it screamed at me of how great you think you are, because that was what had happened. So we need to do some cognitive reframing. We need to do neurotransmitter reprogramming. And we need to put something where you can remind yourself when those come through and when they happen that they weren't there. That you don't want to let those words continue to be there. You're going to rewire that transmitting thing that's coming through, and to rewire it. So one thing that I will say, words that were said in haste shouldn't be carved in stone. And yet we carved them in stone. I carved some stuff in stone. You carved stuff in stone. You put stuff in stone. You've listened to what somebody said about you and you've believed it and you've repeated it. And let's say that you had a relationship and they said, "Oh, you're too dramatic." Or, "Oh, you're too," whatever it may be. An interesting one came up this weekend for me was that my spouse said I was too physical, too, what would you call it? You want too much physical attention. Now, how many male spouses would say to their wives they want too much physical attention? And it was super interesting to me as that process went through, and I listened to that. And I even repeated back, I said, "So you're telling me that the person who said he was on the 5 love language as physical was his top one, that you're telling me that I have too much request for physical touch, like too much." And I live in Texas, and he's in Oklahoma, so we only see each other we hadn't seen each other in 3 or 4 weeks, but I got told that. And I actually was like, So I wonder if I really am too physical. I wonder if I am too much of wanting like a hug or something, or wanting a kiss, or wanting to do something like just to cuddle up a little bit, or to sit next to each other. So if when that was said, is that could I challenge that in my mind that I'm too physical? And because I'm not too physical, I'm really quite balanced on it. I really enjoy that part of me that says, hey, this is a good part of you, but it has taken a whole lot to be able to stop and do that, because those words shouldn't be carved in stone in my head. So now every single time something comes up and something gets said about, you're too physical, or if somebody says you're too traumatic, find something that you're going to wear or do that you can touch and you can say, ooh, those words aren't true. It's sort of like Bewitched. She used to do her nose. Or I Dream of Jeannie, used to put her hands and blink her eyes and make it go away. What you want to do is to stop and rewire yourself and give yourself a reminder that that's not a true statement. So if you can put a bracelet on, if you can put on earrings, if you can put on a necklace, and no matter what you wear, just be able to touch it and go, that's not true, and give yourself a reminder to do it. So see who said it, whatever it was. You're too dramatic. You're too this, or you're not enough of this. Whatever they said about you that was derogatory, that you took as derogatory, you want to be able to challenge in your own brain that that's not true, and see yourself in times when it was perfect. See yourself when it was the perfect relationship. I see myself when it was perfect, that's how much touching I liked. I see myself if that was what it was. And I'm not romanticizing the person I was with, but I'm romanticizing me as a human being and saying, I was really a good companion to have. That was a really fun experience to have. 2 weeks of really enjoying just doing stuff together. We held hands and we went swimming and we did whatever it was that we did. Those were things I can stop and challenge in my brain. And today, as I stopped and work on this, I challenged that in my brain. And literally, as I got ready to tell you, I had a harder time telling you the story because I realistically went to that place in my brain of this other experience where it was perfect. And I know I was, okay. And I know I was. The same thing on your being dramatic. Think about, they're just not the right person for you if that happens, or if your parent says something about you that's really terrible, your boss comes in. Is it always true? Is you want to stop and say how much of it's truth and how much is not? And if somebody's putting expectations on you that are their downfalls, is to be able to turn that around in your head. But I want to remind you, and it might be possible for you, and I'll write it up and do it. You may want to give it to somebody. You want to post it. You may want to share it. Is that it came from Gandhi, and it's about keep your thoughts positive because your thoughts become your words. And keep your words positive because your words become your behavior, and keep your behavior positive because your behavior becomes your habits, and keep your habits positive because your habits become your values, and your values positive because your values become your destiny. But let's think about this and put it in terms of the words I say to you influence how you perceive yourself. The words how I say to you perceive your behavior of what occurs for you. The behavior that you do becomes your habit. And I just reinforced a bad habit. So be really careful of your words that you give to another soul. And when someone does say something to you that's terrible, there's going to be a time and a place that maybe you should say, is this actually true? And ask the question directly to their face. Do you actually believe this? Is it actually true? And especially when you know it's not true. It would be really good to see if they actually believe it's true, and then determine whether or not you want them in your life. And that's a hard thing for me to say because I've had some things said to me by some people that are still in my life that have said some really bad things. And I need to say, is it true? Is it true that I am responsible for this? If you have a business and your spouse all of a sudden thinks that you need to be responsible to make sure because they're fearful of their job loss, then is it true that I need to become responsible because now I need to do this? Or is it true that you're really going to lose your job? Think about the different things on is it true when you're ready to do that. If you want something on that written up, ask me in an email and I'll be happy to do it for the group. So I would like to say I'm going to share a tapping thing for you to use to help you release this particular thing, because this despair, the whole thing on this one, the despair anchor, is that it's harder to get rid of. So I'm not big, I don't do a lot of tapping. I can't tap on my eye much. So when you do it, but I'm going to send one for tapping, which is basically you do on above, on the side, below, here on a meridian, here on your chin, here. There's some little indentions right here on your body. You want to sort of hit those. I try to use 3 fingers when I do it to hit those, and then to do here. There's some really good books on tapping. There's some good videos on it, and to keep saying the words. So this is, I now create a vision of me being a wonderful person. And I'm not going to name the name, but I would say that this person's statements were not true. And I can say I was a great business person. I see that my creator, I need to do this deal. I see that my creator sees me as an effective, sovereign soul, and the creator believes in me deeply, and I completely and deeply love and accept myself as a sovereign being and as a great businesswoman. And just keep tapping it out. We'll try to put some stuff on tapping in there and to give you some words to say to tap it out. Tapping is a really effective way to use it. And I will have the EFT in the email that goes out tomorrow. EFT is tapping. I'll put that in parentheses, and I'll give some books on it as well. The next thing we're going to do is release what the next part of this is just this statement that they want us to say. I release what is holding me back from being willing to do something I've never done before. And I am willing to go where I have never been before by doing this thing that I have been unwilling to do in the past. So I'm going to release what's holding me back from being willing to do something I've never done. And I'm going to get to some place where I have never been before, and it's going to be so much better. Now, the things that are holding this particular statement in place, that there's something that makes it where that's not a true statement for us, that it's out of alignment. Yes. So to get it in alignment, we're going to release creative insecurity. And under creative insecurity, it is about the creation around health, money, career, artistic endeavors, which is going to be anything in our business or books or creative. We feel insecure, and we're going to release creative insecurity. 2, 3. Oh, the next one is unsupported. A lack of encouragement is yes. Not provided for by another is yes. Not defended by people who should have defended us is yes. Feeling like unsupported, feeling that burden is too heavy to bear by myself. Yes. So we're going to release unsupported. I'm going to repeat those things that are there. Unsupported means a lack of encouragement, not being provided for by another, not being defended when you should have been, and feeling like the burden is too heavy. And it is released. Yes. Thank you. The next one is pride. And pride has a lot of stuff in it, but this particular pride is not the good part. This is when we are too prideful. We are definitely too prideful. And we're not willing to go in there and say, I'm going to try something new, because we're too prideful. Either we said we weren't going to do it in the past, or something came from there. So we are too prideful to give that. So we want to stop and look at that we are teachable. We are flexible, and we want to release prideful, and we want to be able to go in and look and say that we are teachable. Are there any other releases you want done? Yes. Are they in body code? Yes. Okay, just a second. In body code. And there's body code. Right, left. Energy, circuits and systems, toxins. So we're still working on releasing what is keeping us in a repeating pattern. And it went to toxic. And it's a person. So somebody in your life or something or group creates a toxicity within you. And when you're around them, you have a toxic reaction and you react in a patterned way. Breaking that pattern is going to be very much like that, the EFT tapping thing of breaking the that's like breaking the neurotransmitters, so the neurotransmitters will flow differently. So if you know who that person is that causes you to react in the same pattern. So let's say that you go home to visit as adults. Let's say that you go home to visit and you walk in the door and all of a sudden your parents treat you as a child and all of a sudden you act as if you have to be submissive to them, even though you may be the same age. Or you have a sister or a brother who acts like they're superior to you and all of a sudden you act like you become that, and it becomes a toxic pattern in your life. Or it becomes when you go to work and you have had something occur at work and there's a toxic pattern that occurs when there are people around. It's a pattern that occurs and it's not helping you move forward because something causes that pattern to be re-stimulated and it goes in your neurotransmitters in your brain and it goes back to that same old way you used to do it, which didn't work. So if you can identify the pattern, the toxic pattern, and the toxic and or toxic person, then that could be it. So for example, people who make statements like, so someone comes home, for those of you who have children, and let's say you had my niece comes around me. My niece is like, tells me when she does that I'm different than other aunts and uncles, probably because I treat her like an adult. If that makes any sense. So she feels when she's around them that she gets put down. When she's around me, she feels equalized. She is an adult. She's a great adult. So that's a good way to look at it, is to say, can you stop and identify when you don't do that or when you see others do it? And I've seen others do it. So in my extended family, there are aunts and uncles that are there that are very elderly now, but they have expectations that you are to always bow down to whatever they say or do. Well, I don't live near them. I didn't grow up with them. I can respect that they have a difference of opinion, but I don't care for some of their, the way they act or treat certain things on certain topics. And and I don't speak back, I just have actually hidden most of it and done it. But if I actually physically do not go to the family reunions because of the fact that I do not choose to go experience them because they have this expectation that I am higher than you because I'm older and I am your whatever aunt or uncle, second removed or what all. But as that occurs, it becomes a toxic relationship for me just to even think about going. So I don't go. So when you can do it, what do you see and do on it? And when can you not go? And when do you need to go? And there are times when removing yourself away for a year, maybe longer, and all of a sudden it can become a very positive relationship after that because the treatment is much better. So my cousins that I know with those aunts and uncles treat me very well and I feel very valued by them. They ask me questions. They connect with me often, they speak, they call, they do stuff, but they have a real different perception of it. Our equalized value, because I stepped away and said, I don't accept that. And they saw that and respected that. And it added a new status for me. So what I'll say to you on this one is, as they look at the toxicity, is to identify. If you can identify who is toxic, it's really physically discomfortable in my body as I say it, and my throat hurts really bad. We're going to release what we can on it, but try to stop and identify. And if you can, we'll send a tapping, an EFT over for you to work on that. The situation is the same thing. Is there something that triggers you that creates a toxic situation for you, even though it wasn't there before? And if it is, then stop and I will try to see if I can figure out a way to write that. 1, 2, 3. Is that all? May I release? Yes. Is there anything else I need to say? No. The next part is to activate. So we are now going to activate. Got to get my little part 2 here. So part 2 is activating your consistent actions, behaviors, physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual, which support the highest alignment with your soul and with the wisdom of God, Creator. To use it to move out of survival and into thriving, to evolve, to provide transformational experiences for yourself, as well as those you energetically touch each day. So that's the purpose of the activation. So now we're going to ask to rejuvenate your records, optimize them, recalibrate them. And we are doing that. That's releasing any of the negative stuff that we removed today, the non-beneficials, the inferences, all of them in all aspects. And those words are macros, by the way. All in all aspects of interferences. And interferences would be anything that was non-beneficial. Thank you. So now we're activating your understanding of divine timing. Ooh. That you can feel it. So I want you to think of, remember when everything worked really well and you saw a green light to go. And if you see a red light to stop, know that. Start recognizing your red flags and recognizing your green flags. Start looking for them and understanding what they are. Make a list of them. If you did the new moon ritual last night, on those red flags, put all of those on the intention thing and burn them or shred them or wad them up and tear them up. We're going to activate vitality. And that's the opposite of burnout. So that when you're doing these things, you have vitality and you do it with enthusiasm and zest. You do it with joy and passion. You get excited about it. We want to activate decisiveness so you can make clear and strong choices. Decisiveness for clear and strong choices. Activate courage. So you have the faith, the confidence, and the trust in yourself to move forward. Courage for faith, confidence, and trust. Now we're going to activate your personal power so that you feel empowered in each situation, in each moment, and you know the right time, the right place, the right people, and the right event. So we're activating your personal power so you feel empowerment and powerful in every situation, environment, and relationship. So you know the right time, the right place, the right people, and the right event. You even have the right words. Activate recognizing red flags. Ooh, big one. Recognizing red flags. Paying attention to them. When you sense it, feel it, or know it, where did you sense it, feel it, or know it in your body? When you got the red flag, where did you get the red flag at? Where did you feel it in your body? Do you feel sick to your stomach? Do you feel it like a headache come on? Do you feel an energy hit? Then it's a red flag. Can you stop, instead of saying, oh, I got a headache, can you actually say I got a red flag? And look at it from a red flag and ask if it's a red flag. You might have to tell your guides what a red flag is and give a definition of a red flag. That won't hurt. But a red flag is something you want to stop and pay attention to and then determine if you're going to move forward or not. So recognizing red flags, we're activating that. You recognize them. So you sense it, feel it, know it, hear it, and know it in your body. And then look at your human design or your human design centers if you're a human design person, or if you look at your chakras in your body and say, where is it located? Do you feel this pain in your heart when something comes up? The next one is to activate feeling and living in timelessness. I'd like you to think about timelessness. So the first time I ever really experienced timelessness is the first time I got into the water and I laid in the ocean in this really place we were on, had been on a boat, and I took us snorkeling. And I got in the water for the very first time to snorkel. And I'm laying there floating, and it's not next to shore. It is way out there. And a sea turtle swam up to me, immediately swam up to me. And all at once, I felt timeless. When they called for us to get back on the boat, it had been 2 hours almost. And I thought it had been 5 minutes. I said, we can't go yet. It's not enough time. And this sea turtle is still swimming with me. And I had to even like question if I was seeing a sea turtle, because not everybody saw a sea turtle, but I had one swim with me the whole time I was out there doing that. So timelessness is all time that's here to support your journey. It's in your highest and good. So we're activating a timelessness feeling instead of not enough time, but a timelessness feeling. And yes, this one's for me, around me and my age and my work and how long do I have and what can I do and when can I do it and do I have to hurry up or should I just forget it because I can't. The timelessness is saying it doesn't matter, you're biological. Activate timelessness. The next one is activate being in the present moment. Being in the present moment. Right now. Being in the present moment. Deciding that that is the opposite of constant immediate gratification. That I got to have it done right now. But being in this moment and understanding how this moment impacts the next. Is this a breadcrumb? Is this a wait for the clients to catch up? Or is this a wait for my family to catch up? Or is this a wait for my body to catch up? Is this what is it? You know, we don't go 24/7 in our bodies. We sleep a certain amount of time and we rest. We have a beingness of just having to be in that body and to just be there. So beingness is a big thing. Deciding that in the present moment. The next one is to activate your creative abilities. So you flow with ease and grace to the right time, the right people, and the right place. So we want to have your creative abilities and we're activating them. We want inspired actions, inspired recognition of green flags. That's your creative abilities. Inspired green flags. Ooh, this one's for me. Oh, that's for me. I know I'm supposed to do that. Oh, wait. That's a yellow, slow down. Oh, this is a red, don't go there. This is a green light. You're supposed to go. Yes. I see lime green cars and I know, oops, that's something important. Now we're going to activate when the timing is right. You're going to know it. You're going to sense it. You're going to feel it. You're going to hear it. When the timing is right, you know it, sense it, hear it, and feel it. And you don't have any doubts. You're able to connect with the creator. You're able to get to your higher source, your soul's wisdom, and you know this is the right thing for me to do right now. Whether it's a ad in the paper for something you're doing, whether it's applying on a job, whether it is hugging your kids, whether it is stopping to do these other things and not putting everybody else's needs in front of yours, whatever it may be, allow that when the timing is right, I know it, I sense it, I feel it, I hear it, I transform my lives and the lives of those around me. I transform my life and the lives of those around me. I use my personal power, my correct focus, and my timelessness to know when to transform my life. I transform my personal power, my correct focus, and my timelessness to know when to transform myself and those around me. That would be a great tapping, EFT. I will send it. Thank you. The last one is to activate my connection with my soul's wisdom, to know the timing, to activate when to use it most effectively, and to know when to grow in it. There's that song about know when to hold them, know when to fold them. It's a song about poker. That's what this is about. Knowing when to activate is when the most effective and the highest good of all. So knowing when to hold them, knowing when to fold them, and knowing when to play your hand. So we're activating that. Okay. Is there anything else you would like activated? No. Okay. Thank you. I would like to share with you tonight, and these will be on some PDFs at the bottom of the email, is they want to remind you that the neurotransmitter information is about how you rewire, how you think. We all get used to going on a road, and when you're on a road you go on all the time, you don't even remember driving on it, or you don't remember walking on it, or you remember what you just did. But when you get on a road that you've never been on before, you have to pay close attention and get your stuff so you pay attention to where the turns are and what the speed limit is, and where the cars enter, and where the next traffic light may be, or whatever it may, or how many cars are even on that road. So what I want to say to you is when you're trying to rewire your neurotransmitters to get to good habits that are effective for you, that what you want to do is recognize that you're going to have to pay a lot of attention to get there. Your body is going to automatically go to these old neurotransmitters, and it's just going to go there, and you're going to automatically catch those patterns again. So you're going to need to retrain your brain, whether you use tapping or you use some kind of a cognitive behavioral therapy where you like pull on something like a bracelet, or you do something you can do. What I do often when I catch myself having a hard time staying grounded, I use a lot of sprays, and I will put that around. And if I walk into a room and this spray, like this particular room holds the spray for a long time, if I walk back in here, I automatically go back to when I was totally grounded and where I was at. So what can you do to rewire your neurotransmitters? Can you do it with smell? Can you do it with sight? Can you do it with touch, which is like tapping? Can you do it on your meridians? What can you do to rewire your neurotransmitters in your brain? And be real aware the food you eat is a big deal. The food you eat will impact it greatly. It is about how you think and what thoughts you do think, and catching yourself saying, I don't want that thought. I want to think about this. It's not turning around and not experiencing the emotion of it, but it's not getting stuck in the emotion of it. I don't have to say more. The next one part they want to do, and you'll get this here, is that you must be willing to do something you have never done before to get to somewhere you've never been before. And they want to reaffirm to you that this is important, and that you're going to have to try it, whether it's neurotransmitters, talking about how you're going to rewire yourself, or what you're going to do. We can sit and release emotions all we want, but your body is conditioned to respond in certain ways. If you know you have never had your human design reading done and you feel like that might be helpful, then I'm going to actually do little mini, not reading designs, but I'm going to do something on manifesting generators, and do on generators, and do something on each of the 5 types. I'm going to talk about the different profiles. If you send me your information, I will send you your cross of incarnation, so you will have it. But your information there will help you understand why your neurotransmitters go to certain places. Manifesting generators get faster, faster, and faster, and they can't slow themselves down. And generators pretty much do the same thing. So as you do that, you recognize that's why they do it. A projector, you push a projector too hard, and they're going to go shut down on you in just a little bit, and you're not going to be able to get anything for them to do. So as you go through that, recognizing, as a manifesting generator, I'm going to come up with 10,000 ideas. I am. Do I need to do them all? No, I don't. But that's an understanding. I'm a 3/6. I understand what that means. It helps me understand I I had to try everything and experiment before I did it. So if you understand a little about your human design, it's going to help you overcome this repeating patterns big time. And I'll send this stuff with it. So I'm going to end tonight with, the longer I live, the more I realize the impact of attitude on life. Attitude is more than the facts. It's more than the past. It's more than education. It's more than money. It's more than circumstances. It's much more than failures. And it's much more than successes. It's much more than what other people think, say, or do. It's more important than the appearance, giftedness, or skill. It will make or break a company, a church, and a home. And the remarkable thing is we have a choice every day regarding the attitude we embrace for that day. We cannot change the past, but we can change the fact that people are going to, and we cannot change the fact that people will react in a certain way. I can't change what they do, but we cannot change the inevitable. What we can do is play with the one thing we have, and it's our attitude. What happens to me is 90%, and how I respond to it is 10%. Excuse me. I'm convinced that life is 10% of what happens and 90% of how I react. And so it is you, what we want to do. So as you get ready to look at this in your life, recognize that when things happen, we have ways to release it. We have ways to let go of it, and being consciously willing to let go and consciously willing to embrace the best parts of ourselves. So with that, I thank you tonight. And I'll stay on for a few minutes to answer any questions, and I will talk to you guys later. I put out a post of all of our stuff that we'll have in our next sessions on an email last night. Let me stop recording.